Hi there, this is Ajit Nalvakaya, founder of EverCoach and your host today on a very special masterclass. In today's masterclass, we'll be covering the 5 elements of holistic coaching. Holistic coaching is a holistic viewpoint of really understanding the human experience and really understanding what are different elements that come together to creating a holistic impact in your client's life and to be able to create a holistic change for them to really transform from where they are to where they want to be. We're not only talking about the 5 elements of holistic coaching, we're actually going to go one step deeper. We are going to look at what really causes these elements to work. What is the research behind it? What is the science behind it? What is the psychology behind it? You see, as coaches, often we are trained on the art of coaching, where you're mostly tapping into your creativity to be able to create a result with your client. But we all know in today's time, when science has finally caught up to human creativity, when science has actually found more answers than it has ever found before, it is time for us to really tap into what is available to us in today's time and utilize it in creating real results for our clients in a predictable manner. This masterclass will also explore how when you're creating these results with your clients, you will actually be able to also show scientific backing to everything that you do. Yes, for the first time, you will be able to help your clients who are top performers, CEOs, top executives, to be able to justify working with them in a particular way and showing them what is happening subconsciously, what's happening in their neural structure, what's happening in their body structure, what's happening in their emotional intelligence. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I want to invite you to look at this class as a fast track for you to really understand how to create greater results with your clients, how to find the scientific research, the scientific principles that allow you to not only understand why your client is experiencing a particular moment, problem, or a growth edge, as we call it, and also to be able to figure out what is it that you need to do, what is it that you need to look out for you to be able to create true transformation for them. It has been long enough that in the coaching industry we have ignored the science. And I want to invite you today to come in with an open mind to understand that if you bring this to your reality, if you bring this to your coaching practice, it might be that distinction that you really need for a transformative result going forward with your clients and with yourself as a human being. Today's guest is co-founder of the Coaching Institute at the McLean Hospital, which is associated with the Harvard Medical Institute. She's also the co-founder of the Leadership and Coaching Annual Conference and the founder of Well Coaches Academy. Well Coaches Academy has been coaching coaches on health and wellness since the year 2000. Margaret has been developing these theories and philosophies that we'll be talking about today since that year, and even before that, working directly with scientists and psychologists and people who were doing real on-ground research to find out what makes human beings tick. Margaret has had so many case studies of clients having completely transformed lives that it would take us hours and hours to really share those stories and case studies with you. Margaret has not only founded the Well Coaches Academy, she's co-founded several conferences for coaches, several institutions for coaches and coach training, and she has written multiple books that has helped different coaches at different stages to be able to optimize their performance. She is the author of the Coaching Psychology Manual. She has written books for the coaching departments of Harvard Business School. She has written material for psychology manuals. And if I keep talking about Coach Meg, it will take us the entire class just talking about her credentials and the successes she's created with her clients. But instead of investing more time on that, I want to invite you to keep an open mind. I want to invite you to keep an open mind for the next 60 minutes, to think about your coaching business in an entirely different format. Instead of thinking about your coaching methodology as a stubborn thing that doesn't change, think of your coaching methodology as an experience, something that always is evolving. If you'll give yourself the permission to listen deeply to what Coach Meg has to offer, to what our conversation goes into, you will see that you will not only find tons of valuable advice right here, right now, you will be also able to see what you may do better with your clients that you have worked in the past or you might work in the future with. We've designed this masterclass to be action oriented, which is why I invite you to take out your workbooks. If you don't have them already downloaded, you'll find them on this page. Go ahead and download that workbook. it'll be useful as Coach Meg is taking you through these 5 elements. These 5 elements are backed by science and research. So I'll invite you to also keep an open mind to see how that ties in into your existing methodology that you might be using. And if you don't have one, look at it from a fresh pair of eyes, because I don't know of any other methodology that is as comprehensive as the one that we're going to talk about today. Now, we're going to cover 5 elements, and you might take 15, 20 bullet points out of this conversation. You might go, oh, I learned this and that and this and that. But instead of thinking about what 15, 20 elements you can get from the class, I invite you to think about just one thing that you will take away, because that one thing is enough for you to create transformative change going forward in your coaching practice. It may seem like, why would I only take one thing when I could take 15? But honestly, the class is so good, the concepts are so strong, and what you're going to learn is so wonderful that just that one takeaway might be all you need to create real transformation for yourself to start with, and then for your clients. Now, without taking much more of your time, let me introduce you to this phenomenal coach, Margaret Moore. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Ajit. It's really a great pleasure to be with you, as always.
Yeah, it's so awesome. So firstly, for our listeners, let's try to go into understanding what is it that we are actually covering today. So what is it that all the coaches and trainers that are online right now with us, what can they expect in the next 40, 50 minutes?
Right, okay. Well, as coaches, we talk about the art of coaching, right? The creative side. There's also a science of coaching. Much of it has emerged in the last 20 years since I've been in the field. So it's an amazing time to be a coach. It's also not that easy to understand the science and to find the good science, especially in the field of psychology, where so many studies are not replicated. And it's hard to know what to trust. You know, what science can I trust is going to work with my clients? And so what I've tried to do is, because I love this work, I've tried to identify the theories that are really well backed by a lot of research, that have high notes for coaches to know. Things that you know, if you know them and you use them, and you can even tell your clients why you're using them, they work. Mm-hmm. They really work. And it's as though, it's not that scientists have discovered all the fundamental truths of human nature and how to change and how challenging change is and how to thrive, but there's enough now that we've got a lot of great stuff to share.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're going to be talking about the 5 elements that can be utilized to be able to create a more holistic change with your clients. We are also going to discuss something that we call growth edges. I'm so curious to see how we explore the growth edges and how we're going to diagnose a little bit more about that. But before we go into that, I know one of the big challenges that coaches find, especially in today's time, is how can they be seen as people, or what is it, because you've been coaching for several years, you've been coaching coaches for so many years. What is it that coaches can do in today's time to become an expert, to be able to be recognized as people who actually know? I know we were talking a little bit about actually knowing these elements and that helping out.
Yeah. Well, one of my missions in life is to help coaches know what they need to know about human nature based on the research. Because we all as a community are far more credible if we understand just some basic theories. There are many, many to draw on, and I'm not going to cover all of them, but the ones I think are really important, that coaches really benefit from knowing, and that clients really get a lot from those theories. So I think that's why I'm here with you, is because I care deeply about this profession. I care that coaches are well informed. And then my contribution is that, having grown up in biotechnology and having been married and now married to 2 scientists, not at the same time, but I have a deep respect for scientists and scientific research, and I'm willing to do the deeper dive into what's the science is really saying, because the scientific papers are complex, and they speak a language that if you're not a scientist, you don't understand. There's a lot of mathematics, there's a lot of complexity there, and so I think my contribution is to be able to sift through what you can rest on, what you can stand on, and what's wobbly. And what science, and some of it still may wobble, even the stuff that seems well-grounded. But if I can kind of translate what I think are the most important pieces of science into what coaches do, I think we all, I can help coaches be well-informed and have integrity and be standing on scientific ground when they coach.
And that is so important, because often, because it is so complicated, often we go, okay, hold on, this is too complicated. I don't really understand it. How do we really use it? And in the coming times, I think, like you rightly said, as the coaching industry evolves, as coaches evolve, we need to have that understanding to be able to really create a holistic change, right?
Right. That's right. Yes. So, as an example, the most respected theory of human motivation for decades has been Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Gallup did some research a few years ago that showed not that those needs aren't valid, they are, but they're not necessarily a hierarchy. So there are cases in the world where people don't have enough to eat and they don't have enough resources and they want to self-actualize. They will help other people. They'll serve the greater good even when they don't have enough to eat and enough to, and live in, you see this even with homeless people. They'll give up, they'll give away something precious in order to help someone else. So, so that theory was everybody depended upon that, and Maslow, near his time of death, was, by all accounts that I've heard, was disappointed that there wasn't any science behind. He had identified these needs, but he hadn't done research on what they were and how they worked and how they related to each other. So along came Ed Deci and Rich Ryan, and they built on the notion of intrinsic motivation, and they really defined 4 distinctly different kinds of motivation that work differently. So it's not like a little motivated to a lot of motivation. There are different forces inside the human personality that give us different kinds of motivation, and some work better than others, and some lead to sustainable change. So as a coach, you want to be alert to what kind of motivation am I hearing right now, and is this the kind that the research says is going to lead to sustainable change? It's going to have enough power to help people make lasting change.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I know we're going to go deeper into some of these areas, and I wanted to kind of go and start to take a deeper dive towards the 5 key areas and the elements that you have found that would allow somebody to be able to create holistic change or create a holistic environment for the clients to be able to thrive, or be able to have a holistic communication with the clients to be able to thrive and create lasting change with themselves. So how about we take a little bit deeper dive into that? The first part that you talk about is called coaching psychology.
Yes, so coaching psychology is really an emerging discipline. There is not a doctorate program right now in this country, maybe not even in the world. There are master's degrees in Australia and a few other places. So it's very much an emerging field. And there are, I've got like 15, 16 favorite theories that I rely on. We're not bringing all of those, that would be overwhelming. But we did pick 4 that we think are kind of fundamental, that all coaches will enjoy and appreciate and love to work with. And so I'm basically giving coaches a sort of a place to start with those 4 theories.
So tell us more about these 4 theories. What are these theories, and what are we really talking about here, and how do they imply anything?
Right. So I start with self-determination theory. It's kind of a good name for coaching because we are helping people self-determine, self-actualize. And this is the theory that was developed by Ed Deci and Rich Ryan at University of Rochester over decades. It addresses 2 concepts that are different. One is that there are, of all our needs, and we have many, the human personality is rich with diverse and conflicting needs, but there are three that stand above the rest. The first is autonomy. And what's interesting about autonomy is that the way families work, religions work, organizations work, and through history has been that the people at the top, the bosses, the authorities, are driving the agenda. They know more than everybody else. And what that means is that they're stepping on people's autonomy, because the folks underneath are following. They're not necessarily following their own heart or their own desires. And when we mostly inadvertently step on people's autonomy by telling them what to do, that's the easiest way to do it, they rebel. They're defiant. They resist us. Not all the time. Sometimes they comply. Sometimes they do what we want because they want to please us. They want to avoid conflict. But the truth is that those are both labile. Like, they're very dangerous places to be, because compliance can quickly shift to defiance. Right? And defiance, there is research that shows people go backwards in being ready to change. That's not even neutral. So if you trigger, don't control me, don't tell me what to do, and if you're, everybody that's married that's listening to this or has a sibling knows what this is like, right? Because we want our partners to be better and to change, and that's our agenda, right? It's not necessarily their agenda. So we can trigger resistance very easily. Happens everywhere, happens to all of us every day. So that really is a fundamental reason why coaching is drawing people out and making sure that they're acting from their own autonomy, that they're the captain of their ship, they're at the steering wheel of their lives, they're the master of their destiny. Not every day, not every moment, because it turns out we also have needs to serve others, which are exactly the opposite. But nevertheless, we have this core need, and we have it as babies. We push the peas on the floor. Babies are very good at mastering their environment and controlling everybody around them. And then our elders, as they lose autonomy, just because of the natural aging process, at some point you can't drive, at some point you can't live by yourself or live in your own home, and then they fight for their autonomy and they resist following advice. So it's natural and normal, and the coaching process starts by really honoring that. And making sure that people are at the driver's seat. Even when we give advice, we make sure we offer choices. We don't just say, here's what I want you to do. We say, would you like some ideas from my experience, so that they're still in the driver's seat. And then we resist the urge to grab hold of the steering wheel, right? Hey, let me tell you. Let me show you where to go. I think I know where you should go. And so when we do that, we've taken away autonomy. So that is like a major gift from that theory. The second is the desire to have relationships that support our autonomy. Right?
Yeah.
Our friends, our mentors, and of course that's what coaches do. We support people's autonomy. We don't judge them. We don't ask them to be something that we want. We ask them to come up with their own agenda. And then the third need is the desire to be competent, to be skilled in life, to know what to do, right? And we have a very strong need to show our competence in the world. And that's the real work of coaching, is helping people build competence. So self-determination theory, in a nutshell, defines coaching, because we draw out people's autonomy. We get them to feel as though they have some control. You don't have a lot of control over your life, but more than they thought. And then we serve that through the relationship, and then we help them build new competence. We help them build new skills. We help them build new software for living a bigger, better life.
It's awesome. So by coaching psychology, what do we really mean? What are we meaning by saying addressing the coaching psychology? What's the first thing?
Right. So largely coaching psychology is somewhat promiscuous. We're basically taking theories from other domains that are not necessarily, didn't emerge from coaching, and we're applying them to coaching. So that's the main thing we're doing, is applying robust theories in coaching. There are, I mean, one of the things I like to do is to build new theories, and so I've been doing that myself as well, and a couple we talk about in this course. So then there's also coaches inventing and developing new theories, and so it's really the combination of that. It's not the whole story. You can't find a theory to explain everything we do in coaching. You know, those aha moments, how do we make those happen? There's a brand new book on that. The science, sort of the science behind how do you create new insights? How do you create ahas? How do you make shifts? But there's a lot more to do. There's still a lot of places where it's art, not science.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you also talked about the analytical model for behavioral change and motivational interviewing. Will you touch upon that a little bit, just in a quick snapshot?
So then, right. So if you start with autonomy, then you want to help people decide what they're ready to change. Where are they ready to grow? And the transtheoretical model is another, you know, huge theoretical scientific base of a couple thousand research papers. And the scientists there, led by Jim Prochaska, who's another one of my heroes, and he's devoted his whole life to this, just like DC and Rich Ryan, is to understand the forces that determine whether you're ready or not to change. Like, how do you know? You know, you get excited, you get your willpower going at New Year's Eve, you know, you decide, okay, now's the time. But there's a lot of subtle forces that determine whether you really are ready or not. And that's all been mapped out. And so there are 5 stages of readiness. And what underpins those is something very simple that we all do, which is the decisional balance, understanding the reasons to make the decision or make the change, and the reasons to not do it, right? And it's the balance of those two that determine whether you're ready. So when you're in what's called pre-contemplation, your reasons not to change are like really weighing you down, right? They're big.
Yeah.
They're not small.
Yeah.
And you can't see, you don't have hope. You can't, so you either like give up or you resist, because there's no way. You just can't even see the possibility. So that's not where we can help people change, right? Because there's just it's too much heavy lifting. When people get to the balance where the reasons to change and the reasons not to change, that's where maybe 60% of us are at any time in any behavior. You know, whether it's organizational change, leadership, or individual change, your health or your happiness. So most of us sit there, which and we can stay there for decades, right? You know, and maybe you move forward, like at some point it looks like you're moving forward, sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the sweet spot for coaching, right? Because we can help people tap into the deeper reasons to change and start to come up with strategies to get around some of these reasons not to change. Then as you move into the next stage is preparation. Now you're ready, but you haven't started yet, you know, so you go buy a brand new pair of running shoes, you know, you start to read a book about a new technique in team leadership, whatever your domain is or wherever you want to change. And you're getting ready. And then you move into action. And action's like hard work because it's not comfortable. You haven't done this before, you know, so it's a lot of work. Like you have to think about it, you have to write it down, you have to do a lot of what people call self-regulation. Like you have to think about, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? What's my backup strategy? There's a lot of effort. And then coaches can really help in that phase too, because very easy to backslide. Very easy to backslide. And so you got to help keep the motivation and the confidence charged up. Then when you get up to, you know, it starts to become automatic, and there starts to be, you know, you forget occasionally, but you can get back on track. That's called the maintenance phase. There's really no permanent phase, because you could always slide back, and we do. But at that stage, your confidence is high, the reasons to not change are low, and your motivation is high. So it's the relative proportion of these two things. So it's very simple. And when you teach people, your clients, how this works, then instead of beating themselves up and saying like, why didn't I do that? Like, why am I not doing this? I know I should listen better. I know I should be eating more fruits and vegetables. I know I should be spending more time doing, whatever, but I just never, it's because that balance isn't quite right. And it just opens the door to a very interesting conversation about how to shift the balance and when do you know you're ready. And if you can help people trust that if it's not now, it'll be sometime later. But work on what you're ready to work on. Not what people are telling you to work on, not what your doctor says is medically urgent, not what your spouse wants to. It's what you genuinely think, hey, I want this, I think I can do it. Then you know that's the sweet spot, and that's where you want to work as a coach.
That's amazing, and that's just the first element that we're talking about right now. That's just the coaching psychology, to really understand where people are at and how can they inspire change and so forth. Now let's go to the next one, which is how the mind works and how we can organize our minds, not just for ourselves, but for of course our clients too.
Yeah, so
give us a little bit context first. What does it mean for knowing what does mind work?
Probably all of you listening know something about mindfulness. So, mindfulness has become a real hot topic. And there are many, many ways to think about mindfulness, and there are many mindful practices, and it can get a little confusing. Like, what on earth are we talking about here? So my starting point is really to say that coaches should aspire to be masters of our minds. We should be ahead of other people, right? We should set the intention, even though it's not easy to organize one's mind. We should set the intention of being ahead of our clients, because they will sync up and attune to our minds. And if our minds are chaotic and frenzied and distracted, then our way of coaching won't come through. It won't sing like a bell. It won't just hit the right notes. So my first thought would be to call coaches to be masters of our own minds. I was invited to work with a psychiatrist who's an expert in attention deficit disorder. So this was a gift from the universe. And I'm a coach, and so I was working with a psychiatrist. So there is a lot of research on the science of disorganized minds, namely folks with attention deficits. And there are 6 different areas of brain function that lead to a disorganized mind. And so we've learned from the folks who struggle with disorganized minds the places to focus to better organize our minds. And so in the course, we talk about these 6 areas. None of them are new, but it just provides a simple framework for thinking about it. So for example, the first thing before you do any good work in life is you've got to have a calm mind, right? You have to come to the moment without chaotic, frenzied, the racing car mind. We have to be able to still our minds. And there are lots of ways to do that. You can go for a run, you can work out, you can do a mindfulness technique, get a good night's sleep. There's a lot of ways to do this. But it's very important that coaches arrive present without a lot of messiness in their minds, that they can find the quiet, calm place. So that's the first one. The second is that the brain works best. You can't do this all day long, but it works best in deep states of focus. And that means that you're doing one thing and you're in a deep state of flow. And that's a coaching session, right?
Yeah.
You're in a deep place. And what's interesting about deep focus, there are many kinds of deep focus. So you can focus in various ways. So one can be just thinking and with your client, just pulling out the data, the facts. Another can be the flow state where you're brainstorming and you're free flow and you're not trying to be linear. You're actually trying to be creative. And then at the end of a session, you're actually being judgmental, even though that's something we sort of say, ooh, I don't want to be judgmental. But we have to make good judgments. We have to make good decisions, right? So at the end of a session, not earlier generally, you're then weighing up. Okay, what's a good decision here? What's the right thing to do? So then we're using the brain states for evaluation. So that just gives you an example of how you can choose what kind of brain state are you in, and how do you go deep into that. And if coaches can go deep and then come back out again with agility, right? Then go deep and then come back out again, deep, and then you start to feel as though you've got the dials of your mind. You know what to turn up, what to turn down. Turn on the heart. Now we have rapport, right? I'm shifting right now. I'm feeling you as a human. Okay, so I've just dialed up the rapport. Now let's think about this. What do you think, right? So you start to become aware of how you can use your mind and brain and make sure you're in the right state for that moment.
Well, that's beautiful, because also I can see the power of that if you're able to coach your clients to be able to have an organized mind, of course, because like you said, for a coach, the most powerful thing you can do is be present with your client when it's happening and be able to dial up, dial down, be able to have that structure, being in that state of flow, being in that deep state. And if you can optimize that for yourself, and if you have the ability to bring your client to that state, not only during the coaching session, but be able to give them the tools to be able to have that in their work, it becomes so much more powerful, because just that impact, just the impact of you being able to work with your client to help them organize their mind is so much more powerful, like, because it's just that would increase their performance at work, they'll increase their performance in their business. I want to go to the next one right now, which is emotional intelligence, and that probably is one of my favorite ones here.
Yeah, so again, thank goodness we are coaches in today's era, because 25 years ago, there wasn't a framework for emotional intelligence. And emotions were things that were difficult, that you talked about behind closed doors, with your therapist, right? But, they are the signposts from your inner world, your ego, whoever you are as a human being, whatever that is, whatever that means. Your emotions are the language of your being, right? And it's only now that we know how to read that language. We didn't have a way of decoding it. So now we know that your emotions are speaking to some need you have or yearning you have that's not being met. So they're actually a signal that something's not quite right. They're also a signal that there's an opportunity to, now we're talking about the negative ones, because the positive ones have a different, they work differently. Negative ones are like Velcro, they stick because they want your attention and they want you to help them out. They're like troubled parts of you that just need your help. And so mindfulness techniques allow you to notice them and not judge them, and not avoid them and not push them away and not treat them badly, right? Which is often what we do. Like, I just, push this away. I'm not going to feel this right now. I'm just going to stay in my head, and I'm not going to feel this. And the emotions are like crying babies. They are asking for attention. They're asking you to. Now, you may not be able to give them the attention they need in this moment, but they are a sign. So emotional intelligence is really paying attention with love, without judgment, and really finding out what their message is, and then helping grow, using them as learning, as a basis for learning. And the positive emotions are telling you, keep going, this is good. And the negative emotions are saying, hey, hang on here, can you just come and take a peek at this and have a look. And as coaches, we're not therapists, so we're not healers. We're not actually trying to fix. We're not trying to rescue people from their emotions. So if the emotional soup is a little bit too intense and a little bit, you have a sense, ooh, this is like there's a big downward spiral here. We can be helpful in helping people see that, yeah, you might want to get some help with this. You might want to go a little deeper. You might need a scuba diver to go down there with you and kind of dig, and that's not what coaches do. Mostly we just help people use some very basic techniques in the moment to try to even just a bit of empathy and a bit of, so noticing them and then naming them and then showing some compassion. That's often enough in the moment to then say, okay, now I can move on. Okay, where do you want to go now? You're feeling yucky when you came in. Okay, so now where do we go? So it's really about not driving over them, just stopping to notice, be curious, be accepting, and be compassionate, and then decide. You want to walk into that space, or do you want to set it aside and let's work on something else?
The fourth element that you talked about is body intelligence. Let's first understand, what does it even mean to have body intelligence, and maybe explain a little bit about how to utilize it or how to observe it.
Yeah, so this is a new concept that I developed with a psychologist, Jim Gavin, and it's modeled on the framework that Dan Goleman, who is the scientific guru, translator, he's translated the science into frameworks for emotional intelligence and social intelligence. So those are well mapped out, and they're taught, their courses, their assessments. Body intelligence is relatively new, and so if you work in the health and well-being area, emotional and physical, the body has a lot of intelligence that we, especially in today's world, we don't do so well at harnessing, because we live in our heads. We think. We don't spend a lot of time living in our bodies, feeling our fingers and our toes, and listening to the heartbeat, really listening to feel it, noticing your breath, noticing what's hurting, where's tension, where there's a lot of wisdom there, a lot. And so the framework that we talk about in body intelligence starts with awareness. What's my body telling me? If your body had a voice, what would it say, is a coaching question. What would it tell you right now? And then understanding what it needs. So that means the basics, like what is the optimal kind of nutrition for my body, not someone else's, that gives me lots of energy but doesn't put weight on. It's sort of like I've got all the energy I need, I feel healthy, I feel vigorous. So that recipe is different for each of us, right? And some people thrive on one nutritional balance and others. So that's and then what kind of exercise works for me, and how much sleep do I need, and how do I get to sleep and stay asleep? All of those things. How do I get my blood pressure under control? How do I arrive at my day with a lot of energy in my tank? All of those are places for self-science where you can discover the formula. And the formula is usually several things together that get what you want. It takes several behaviors together, 3 or 4, that work synergistically. So you can't just get energy from doing one thing. It's usually, you get a little exercise, a little bit of work on your emotional well-being and your stress, a little bit on your nutrition, a bit on your sleep. And so body intelligence is about being aware, knowing what your body needs to perform at an optimal level, and then engaging in that, and actually living a life that makes your body sing, right? And but it takes some focus to really listen. And often we're looking for the wisdom outside of us, the latest diet, the latest guru tells us that this is what I do, but the truth is your own body tells you. You eat something 2 hours later, how did you feel? What'd your body tell you? I'm sleepy. Okay. Maybe the bagel and cream cheese wasn't optimal because it didn't have the right, it was, high glycemic, high carbs, fat, went sent to give you a rush of energy and then you crashed, right? Or coffee, what's the right dose of caffeine that gives you a little bit of a boost and a little bit of antioxidants, but not so much that you're buzzing, right? So everything has an optimal kind of level for each of us. And so helping our clients and ourselves understand our own bodies and what they need it's a lifelong journey, because of course as you age, it changes. So it's a lot of fun to play with that and recognize that each of us is unique and we can develop that intelligence.
All right, that's amazing. And of course there's as you understand the body wisdom, as you understand what is the body telling you, you're able to discover what might be some of the physical changes, not only on the body, but actually manifestation of that in the reality, for you to be able to go, oh, okay, that's what is happening, or the other way around, whatever is happening in reality is translating to your body, and then you go, okay, what is it that needs to be corrected here, or what is that needs to be looked at?
Right.
The last bit that you talk about, and this also takes us to growth edges, is transformational change. So what are the 3 shifts in transformational change that one can have?
Right. Let's talk about the why first.
Okay.
Because the world is different in the last even 5 years than it was 20 years from now, and it's going to be even unrecognizable in the next 10 to 20 years. So external forces of change are getting to the point where they're moving so quickly, and so many different kinds acting together, that we no longer can predict the future. We don't know where we as individuals are going, where the human race is going, where organizations are going. And humans aren't keeping up with the external change. So technological change, climate change, globalization, and population growth, all of those are creating forces so that things are changing faster than ever before, and even change is changing, basically. So that calls coaches as the agents of change, right? We're the folks that specialize in helping people change, to step up our game, get better. And we've all got to be inventors, we've all got to be testing things, we've got to find ways to help people change faster, because we're running out of time, basically. We're, depending on how you look at it. The human race may be driving over a cliff. The seas are rising, the forests are burning, we're getting hot and sweaty, and all of that. So transformational change is really a shift in our identities. So today we live in a world where we all have a way of thinking about who am I and how do I operate in the world and what do I do. And that identity that we each have individually and collectively isn't going to be what gets us through this next phase of human history. So we need, instead of just small changes in behavior and habits, we need transformational change, which is when your mindset and your behavior changes together. So you think differently, you believe differently, you act differently, you feel differently. It's not just you do differently. Everything has shifted. You look back, and this already happens, because you think about looking back a year ago from where you are today, you feel different, right? You don't feel like the same person. So we're transforming all the time. It's just we're not doing it fast enough. And we need new tools, we need to get better and better at it. So so there's really 3 levels of transformational change that have been defined by 2 coaches who wrote a new book on this, around the science and art of insight and shifts. So the simplest way to think about transformational change in terms of 3 levels is you start with, you learn something new knowledge, new skill. The second is that you shift your belief or perspective or your attitude. Like, I don't like this. Oh, I love this. I don't want to do that. Oh, that's one of my favorite things to do, right? So that's a shift in perspective. And then there's the shift in identity, which the authors called the quantum shift, right? And it's a bigger shift. It may be that the others accumulate to give you the other one, so they kind of build on each other, like a little. And the brain can only develop 1 millimeter of new network a day, like when neurons connect and create a new brain network. There's a limit, biological limit to that. So we can't we can't really do transformational change in a day or even a week or a month. It's lots of little changes, and then one day I'm a different person. I have a new identity. So it's lots of little, and all of a sudden you go, I see that. I never understood that. I didn't know I could be that kind of person. And so those identity changes are really the transformational change. And so then the question is, how do we help people make those changes more frequently, faster, and better? And I don't have all the answers. I'm really proposing that all of us as coaches need to realize that we're part of the future. Never have we been needed more. Never. This skill set is the skill set everyone needs. So we've got to get better at it for ourselves. We've got to get better at it with our clients. And we're, and in fact, one of the things that I have begun to appreciate in very recently is that coaching really is leadership. It is really the new leadership. To be able to facilitate change in yourself and others. Sometimes you lead your client, you take their hand because they're lost, and sometimes you facilitate. And that's leadership and that's coaching. And so it's kind of merging. And so I think also coaches we need to see ourselves as leaders, not just coaches. So we have to step up to that role too. So this is a very, very important time and in coaching, and we need to get all the tools we can from the science, from the art. We've got to be really on the top of our game if we're going to be part of the solution for the future of the human race and our clients, and not, victims of this external change.
And I think there is big intention with coaches to be able to influence this change. And you're so right about the integration of coaching and leadership in a way. That's kind of the future that's coming in.
Emerging.
And I think it's not only getting identified with coaches, like you rightly mentioned, and like how you're supporting that change and that conversation to happen, but I think even leaders identifying that they need to be more of coaches. And there was a recent study, several recent studies have identified one of the key skills that today is required in a corporation with leaders is their ability to be able to coach their teams. So it's very, very profound. It's very simply and beautifully put by you, but so profound that leaders, coaches are leaders of today. And how can we be more of that and be able to inspire that transformational change?
Yeah, and what the other another important point is that we as coaches work in diverse areas, right? Some of us work with teenagers and kids and families. Some of us work with adults around their health, some, dealing with chronic diseases. Some of us work with emotional well-being and stress. Some of us work on careers. Some of us work with leaders. Some people work, there's wherever there's opportunity for human growth, there's an opportunity for a coaching specialty. What I really want to help coaches understand is that, all that said, we're all bringing forth the fundamentals. There are fundamentals that are fundamental to all domains of coaching, and that that we should see ourselves as part of a large community. And it turns out when you're a coach, you need to be able to step into what people need. So you might have to talk about career when you're a health coach. You might have to talk about health when you're a leadership coach, right? So there's a lot of overlap. I mean, clearly, as a coach in a particular specialty, you want to blend your expertise with that. But even that said, the fundamentals of helping people grow, change, and thrive, and what I like to say, thrive on the growth edge, those are universal concepts that if we're all together as coaches aligned around those fundamentals, and we keep adjusting them as new science comes, and together as a community where we're holding hands around the science and the art, we'll be more impactful as a community.
That's amazing and beautiful, and thank you for that. Let's go and just briefly touch upon growth edges. We talk a little bit about what are these growth edges that we all have, and how do we get past them?
Yeah. So the natural process of developing as a human being, as an adult, this is the field of adult development, is about growing. And growing is about getting to those moments when your emotions are high and you feel a little helpless, like you don't know, you're in over your head, basically. So a growth edge is simply the moments when you feel in over your head, where the demands of the moment are greater than your abilities, and your emotions are telling you, I can't do this, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost, I'm confused. You might not, people may not say that, right? They're just carrying on and, raising their children and making dinner and getting the job done. But inside, there's a lot of stuff going on that's telling you, I don't feel safe, I'm afraid, I'm worried, I want to be in control, I'm not feeling in control. So that's just normal. That's how we grow, like, you know, from childhood through adulthood. So the thing about what we can offer, though, is that we can be the folks who can help people get past, step up to that discomfort instead of pulling back and, or, you know, we talk about this in the course, looking for relief in some kind of addictive activity, you know, turning to your phone for relief, turning to unhealthy foods, snacks, turning to a drink, a cigarette, some relief, right? So that's what we often do. And so that's not growing, that's escaping, right? So the growth edge is really easy to find because it's right where you're struggling. And now as coaches, we have to be careful that we don't try to tackle too many, because you can only really coach on one growth edge in one session. So part of the art of coaching is to help people in the warm-up identify where are they ready to grow, where are they ready to make a shift, and then help them step up to that moment. So when you're struggling and when your emotions seem to be running the show, you're like the puppet on the strings, your emotions have the strings, then you know you're in over your head and you have a choice. I can reduce the demands or I can grow. If I choose to grow, I'm choosing transformational change. Because to transform from stuck to the other side is a transformation. You've transformed the agitation into wisdom, basically. And that's way easier to say than to do. And all of us coaches are wishing for that, not wishing because that sounds like we're attached to it, but we're hoping, and we're, you know, we developed a skill set to make that happen. We know we've had a good session when our client, they've shifted, right? You see it in their energy. Their facial expressions change, their emotional state has changed, their energy is higher than when they arrived. Then we know we've had a good coaching session. Then we know they've probably made a shift or two.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And there's so much that we covered today. And I know your workbook is probably full of notes at this point. In just a bit, we are going to go into the Declips technique. But before that, what I want you to do is, because you have compiled so much information right now and you've taken so many wonderful notes and so many things have become a lot more clearer to you, what I invite you to do is go ahead and write down maybe 1-2 action steps that you can already see that you will bring into your coaching practice, that you'll bring into your next coaching session. And as you're writing that, let me help you integrate everything that we've talked about today so you can take this and make it a real reality into your coaching practice and really be able to holistically impact your clients. Now, here's a quick run through and a summary of what really happened so we can integrate this all together before we get into the Declips exercise. So firstly, we went over what is holistic coaching. What does it even mean to be coaching someone holistically? And then we went over the 5 different elements of holistic coaching. Firstly was coaching psychology. The second one was how the mind works. The third one was emotional intelligence. The fourth one was body intelligence. And lastly, we covered transformational change. Now you understand some of the core concepts of holistic change that you can bring about in your client's life. You understand what you need to do, what are the different things that you need to look at, and what are these 5 different elements that you can bring in to be able to create a change that will last with your clients and give them the results that they really seek for. Now, what I want to check in is, did you really catch everything? I want to check in to see if we can integrate this learning together and make sure that you have captured what needs to be captured today. Let's check in. Have you captured the research that is behind holistic coaching? Do you understand how holistic coaching is better than just coaching someone? Why it's important in modern times? Do you understand how holistic coaching really works? Do you know the 5 elements that we just discussed? Do you understand how these 5 elements come together to create a lasting change with your clients? Are you ready to take all this information, all this insight, and utilize this in your coaching practice? Did you at least get 1, 2, or 3 principles that you can take today and implement in your coaching practice? If you've answered yes to these questions, congratulations. You've got a great start moving towards creating a holistic coaching practice. Creating a practice that doesn't only coach people, but you can create real results. You can create holistic results in their lives, which is backed not just by some hypothesis, but actual science. So congratulations on that first step. Now, I have an invitation for you. You see, at this point, you can take everything that you learned in the class and run with it. You can take that base understanding that Coach Meg so beautifully put together for you, and at the end of this class, you'll anyways get the Eclipse technique as well, which you can use with your clients. And that would be great, and you'll get some results with that. Or I invite you to take real action. I invite you to be that coach that is a beacon of light for the society. I invite you to be that coach who's going to create real holistic change out there in the world. I invite you to join us, join me, join Coach Meg and hundreds of other coaches on this journey of becoming a more holistic, full-bodied coach who create great impact around the world. And an invitation to that is to join us in the Holistic Coaching Program. Holistic Coaching Program is the latest program that we are bringing out on EverCoach. This program covers these 5 elements, but in a lot more detail. We go into actual science behind each of these elements. We go into actual techniques that you can use across each of these elements into your coaching practice. You actually get to become a holistic coach as you go through this process. You get to take these exercises, and as you interact with your client, instead of just hypothetically telling them something or asking a question without understanding the science behind it, you will finally be that coach that clients look forward to speaking with, because you come not only with great quality questions and great conversation, but a breadth of knowledge and a breadth of information that is backed scientifically. Think about a life where when you are enrolling a client, you're not just relying on your ability to ask powerful questions, but you're also able to actually back it up with science. Think about how easy your enrollment process will become. Think about how much more qualified you will be able to present yourself just because you understand why things work. You're not just relying on some faith that it works. You actually have a scientific backing of it. So think about not only in context of the impact that you create with your clients, but also think about in context of the ease of enrollment. Just because you are a lot more educated about what you are doing, you're a lot more holistic about how you create change in your client's life. Isn't that powerful? Now, these 5 elements will give you the ability to be able to firstly understand the psychology that goes behind creating transformative change. What is that psychology, and what are the elements of the psychology that you need to utilize to be able to create lasting change? You will also be able to understand how to organize your mind and organize your client's mind so they get into the flow state a lot more easily, and all the other states of mind are also tapped into, so it can create greater results for your clients. You will get a sneak preview on how emotional intelligence is tapped into, how to really recognize different emotions. You will learn about body intelligence, of relatively new science on what is it that you are looking for in the body to be able to create change. What is it that you need to switch over in the body to be able to create that change? And lastly, you will also be diving deep into the models of transformational change so you can create greater, most powerful, more interconnected results for your clients. You see, all of these elements are tied in together. Not only one of them work, if you bring them all together, it's the most powerful force you can have as a coach. It's the most comprehensive outcome that you can create as a coach, which is why I invite you today on this very special class. You get a very special offer available only on this class, on this page right now. It's available down below this video. Go ahead and take action. You'll also be able to read a lot more information about exactly what's happening in each module, exactly what are some of the other details that you may be curious about are available on this page. But go ahead and take this action, because what we are making available on this masterclass is only available on this masterclass. And so if you are that coach who wants to create holistic change, if you are that coach who knows that you're not here to play small but play big, I invite you to start taking action towards it. I invite you to start becoming a more holistic coach that not only uses the art of coaching, but also uses the science of coaching and brings it all together to create a result that has never been seen before with your clients. Now, this training is designed for coaches, which is why we have taken a unique perspective towards how this knowledge and information is presented. We are not only talking about the theories and the scientific studies around these different principles and different bodies and different elements, but we actually show you how they are implemented in the real world. How do they show up in the real world? It comes with real techniques that you can use to be able to tap into that element and create a result in that element. So it's not something which is a heavy science paper which will give you theoretical knowledge, but this is a practical program that allows you to actually take this theoretical scientific knowledge, make it simple and easy for you to understand, and then be able to get the tools so you can implement it in your coaching practice. This program ideally should be priced somewhere around $2,000. But at EverCoach, our intention is not to see how we can charge more for our program. Our intention is to see how we can present the information in the most affordable format that is useful and also justifies the quality of the program that we produce. Which is why on this special class, we're going to give you a 70% discount. That's a 70% off just because you're on this class right now. So I invite you to take action right here, right now, because this is the best price that you will get for this program anywhere. So a $2,000 program is available to you for more than 70% off right here, right now. It doesn't even stop there. If you take action right now, we're going to give you 2 live demonstrations of Coach Meg actually coaching different clients and showing what she's doing, so you can actually see Coach Meg in action. You can see how these tools are not only tools, but you actually see them in implementation. I would say the price of this program that you're getting this right now is worth just watching those 2 sessions because they're so bloody good. But we don't even stop there. There's over 20 plus resources that we are adding as bonus to the program, so you have advanced study in case you want to study even more and go even deeper into these particular philosophies and psychologies and scientific research. So we're not stopping at just giving you a really formidable program that will change fundamentally how you show up as a coach, but we are adding bonuses like showing live demonstrations and giving additional resources and tools so you can continue a journey and become a truly holistic coach. And hey, as you already may know, at EverCoach, we like to keep our promises, which is why what we are offering you is a full money back guarantee. Yes, 100% of your money refunded completely if this course does not match your expectation and if you notify us in the first 30 days. Yes, this program is actually no cost to you. There is no risk at all. This is basically you trying out a program saying, does it work for me or does it not? If it doesn't, simply send us a note and we'll take care of the refund. It's that simple. But we know that you will never send that email because we know how good this is. We are so confident in this program that we know that this will create the results that we promise it will create, not only for you, but for your clients. We are just about to go into the Eclipse exercise, but before we do that, I want to remind you that this discount is available only right here, right now. So I want to invite you to take action right now. We don't know if this course will be available. We definitely know that this price won't be available. So this special price is available to you right now. So go ahead and take action if you want to be a holistic coach. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes our mind plays games, right? We kind of get tricked by our own mind and we start to believe something that isn't true. For example, a common belief that happens with coaches, and you might have the same, is, oh, I can always do it later. But hey, don't we know that's the thing that we have done all the time? Isn't that procrastination hurt you in the past? If that has been the case, if you have said to things, oh, I can do this later, and then forgot about it, if you have said to things, I can do this later, and then just never really took action, maybe it is time for you to do this program for your own sake, for your own ability to not have that dialogue again where you procrastinated and missed an opportunity that could have totally transformed your life. All of us have missed those opportunities in the past. I invite you to not let that happen to you again. Take a chance, invest in yourself, get the program and see what it does for you. One more thing that might come up. Oh, I don't need this much knowledge. I don't need all these details. Well, that's the difference between a coach and a phenomenal coach. A phenomenal coach never stops learning. A phenomenal coach is always curious about what is the edge? What is the next step that I can go to? What's the edge that I'm still playing at? Where is it that I will grow next and further and then further a little bit more, right? And my invitation for you is to not be just a coach. Be a phenomenal coach. Be an extraordinary coach. Be the coach that leads the change, not the coach that chases the change. Lead the change by learning the latest what is happening in the coaching industry, the latest science behind coaching. Why is it gaining so much momentum suddenly? Learn why that is happening. Be inspired to be that change in your reality. So I invite you to go ahead and take this program. Like I already said, for the first 30 days, all you're doing is trying it. Go ahead, try the program, see if it works for you. And if it works for you, you get to keep it and you get to create 10 times, 100 times more results than what you would have invested in the program. If it doesn't work for you, all you have to do is send an email and let my team know, and we'll totally take care of it. You might be thinking, well, I'm not a holistic coach. I am an executive coach, I'm a this coach, I'm a that coach. Well, all coaches deal with human beings. All coaches deal with human beings. You're not coaching AI or you're not coaching a camera. You're coaching a human being. If you're coaching a human being, you are a holistic coach. Holistic coach is not a title. A holistic coach is a being. How do you show up as a coach? What is it that you're doing as a coach? What are the results that you're driving as a coach? Can you impact the entire being, or are you focused on just a small segment of the entire human that is in front of you? I know you are a holistic coach. I know you want to create total change. That is why we created a holistic coach. That is why we're inviting you to be a part of this change, to be a part of the leadership that is creating this change and creating a holistic change in our clients' lives. Now you might wonder if this is the right program for you. Well, you don't. But that's exactly why we also have a 30-day guarantee here. You get to try the program, go ahead, take it for a spin, see how you feel, see if you like it, see if you don't. And whatever the scenario be, you still have a 30-day money-back guarantee, which means if this is not for you, if you don't like what you see inside the program, if you don't enjoy it, if you don't utilize it, if you don't find it useful, send us a note and we'll take care of it. But I'm very confident about what we have created today. I'm very confident, and not only Coach Meg's ability to be able to coach and train you, but also the entire structure of the program and the amount of effort our team has put into creating something that is magnificent, that is cutting edge, that is going to change the way you show up in your life for yourself and also for your clients. On this particular masterclass, you get this program for an insane discount. I invite you to enjoy that discount and take action for yourself. And now, let's learn the Dick-Lips technique.
Let's talk about the Dick-Lips technique. It's a new technique. It's a technique that I discovered about 3 years ago, and I'm delighted to be able to share it with you today. You could describe it as a mind hack. We've been talking about growth edges and how to turn your agitation, stuckness, wherever you want a change, how to transform that into insight and wisdom and shifts and little changes that add up to transformational change. So let me describe it for you. The first step is to bring to mind an emotion that is difficult. So it could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be impatience, it could be sadness, it could be anxiety, it could be rage even. So it's emotion that is strong. So you have to start with one, and you have to make sure that you're only addressing one at a time. That's not so easy because emotions come like the weather in patterns. So you can have a little of this and a little of that. You can be sad with a little bit of excitement. You can be upset with a little bit of anger. So you have to kind of tease out one emotion. Now, this emotion is a part of you, and you can't get rid of it. So the only way for it to improve is to help it settle. And what's interesting about each emotion, the difficult kind, is that they're in fact creating a blind spot. They are in the way, eclipsing, like the sun eclipses the moon or the moon eclipses the sun. They're in fact blocking your mind's access to some kind of wisdom or insight or shift that allows the emotion to say, I got what I need. So in that way, you want to be curious about this because you don't really know what the other side looks like, right? You're right at the growth edge and you're sort of curious. So the starting point is to feel the feeling and welcome it like you would a friend. And you might not feel that way toward it. You may wish I didn't feel angry because it's getting in my way and it's messing up my mind. But that's not the way this works. You've got to get to a place where you're welcoming it, accepting it, and you've also kind of teased out whether it's you're discerning its real nature. So there's a difference between all-out anger and a little bit of frustration. So you want to kind of get real clear, like, what is it? And it kind of feels like you can feel the energy. It's not always that easy to name, but you want to try to name it. And you can treat it like it's a part of you. And so you can say, okay, this part of me that's feeling angry or sad or anxious, what's your message? What do you want to tell me? And if you listen, and you're a little detached now, so it's not hijacking you, it'll have something to say, like, I wish things were better. I am really frustrated at this situation. So there'll be some words that come with it. And so now you kind of have a sense for, this is what it is, and this is what it means. Now, this is where we move into trying to declipse, right? So it's eclipsing, and it's very, it's part of you. You can hardly separate from it. But you have to get enough separation to help it shift. So you might say to the emotion, okay, I understand what this is and where it comes from. Maybe not, back to childhood or anything like that, but just, okay, I get it. So then you say to this emotion, okay, can you give me some space? Can you go off on a little vacation? Go for a walk, go sit on the beach, get on a train, maybe just sit over there. So you're asking this emotion to give you some space. Because you can't declipse, because it's like a blind spot. It's blocking you from the insight. So then you ask it to move aside. So whatever. And your mind is immensely creative. It might say, okay, I'm going up in a balloon, or I'm going to sit up in a cloud, or anything can happen. So you get that space. So that's the first skill, is the ability to bring the emotion to your attention, name it, and have it shift aside. Not away from you. You can't chop it off or disconnect, but just kind of out of view for a moment. And then you enter the second skill, is that place in your mind where there is stillness. You may not go there very often. It might not be easy to go there. And some of the tricks I teach to get there are things like, if you've ever been to an orchestra concert and the conductor has their hands in the air and then they bring them all the way down to total silence. And it's almost as though you can hear a pin drop. That's an empty mind. The other one I think of is when you walk into a baby's room and the baby's sleeping and you don't want to wake up the baby. And somehow, for some reason, you turn your mind off. It's as though you think the baby can hear you think, right? You bring all the race car mind, all that thinking, you bring it to stillness. So now you're in that place of, close your eyes, and you're in this place of stillness. And in that place of stillness, you just are in receive mode. You're not trying to do anything, go anywhere, accomplish anything. So you're really just receiving. And in that space emerges, out of wherever it comes from, an energy. It can be a word, it can be a picture, it can be a figure. It'll come with its own message. And the moment it appears, the agitation that you felt settles. It integrates. It shifts to some state. I mean, I wish we had a field of physics of the mind and of emotions, and I could tell you what's happening, and we could look at it happening in a scan of some kind, but we don't know. We don't know what insight is, really. We don't know what it is and how it happens. So we have to live in metaphor. and we have to live with our own experience. The moment that insight comes, that emotion, that particular emotion, moves from stuck to settling. So if you know Beethoven's Fifth, da da da. Before the eclipse, you were da da da, and then when you get this energy, you get the da, and you settle. And so by moving the agitation aside, like an eclipse, and you move it aside, the declipse happens, and there's the wisdom, and there's the insight. So in summary, there are really two key skills. These are important mindfulness skills. The ability to see and experience your emotion with acceptance, befriending it, not wishing it would go away. And then also moving into that still mind, that starry sky, that empty space. That's all you need to know. As a coach, you may or may not want to jump right in and use this technique. I mean, I don't use it in every coaching session. I use it occasionally. But I trust that if I can help my clients step into the discomfort and we stay with it for a bit and we play around, that there is the insight, the transformational shift is there to find. And when you believe and trust that that's there, and you hold that possibility, and you stay in this accepting, calm place, you increase the chance that your client will have the shift. So you're embodying the curiosity, the warmth, the respect for the emotion, and the trust that the transformational shift is close by. It's close by. And then you never have to worry that your client won't make the shift. You can trust that it's there. It may not happen immediately. Some big ones take a while, right? So you might be a few months or even a few years sometimes for big shifts. But knowing that that's right there, it's always there. It's like the sun is always behind the clouds. If you know the wisdom is always behind the struggle, then you can come to your clients with a deep calm and trust in the coaching process that will help your clients make those risky moves and grow.